Alright guys, you know what time it is. We have some Rockwell results. I'm going to go over them right now, talk about some of these, and some I have already tested. Some you've seen, some you haven't seen the test yet. But let's go ahead and get started and talk about these 6 and what they came back at. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start with the Manly Wasp. You can see that Kurt did it twice. It did come out around 55.3 HRC. I don't have a sheet for this one. You know, I saw pictures of the test being done and everything. But I do have to say thank you to Kurt. Kurt did go ahead and give this to me, which is awesome. So I'm still going to continue to test it just like always. I really appreciate that he gave it to me. It does well. It's a solid performer. We're seeing a lot of the 12C27 and 14C28N Sandvik stuff it's coming in kind of all over the place, but a lot of them seem to perform really close. This did a little over 130 feet fine edge, and it did within a few feet of the results Steve got on two different ones in 12C27. So still, you know, even at 55.3, it's still a solid performer. And I really enjoy this thing. It's a great little knife here. This one, the KnifeWorks Cruwear carbon fiber, you guys have not seen the test of that yet. There is the divot right there next to my fingernail. This did come back at 63.3 HRC, and I also do not have a sheet for this one because I did a trade with Kurt to get this. You will see the results. I have no reasons at all to believe that this is not Cruwear, and you'll see when the test comes out. I don't think anybody has any doubts that this is Cruwear. But 63.3, it definitely shows in sharpening. It definitely shows in how it holds an edge, and I'm really happy with this one. Now, moving on to the sheets. None of these are going to have a match. They aren't going to have a match because the PMI gun is not loaded with S35, M390, or S90V. It's not typically steels that they work with, so it is not in their database. I did, however, always look over all of them. Kurt does also. Nothing out of the ordinary here. With the small error margin of some of these, everything's right around where it needs to be. See, a Mass-Drop Falcon designed by Ferrum Forge. I don't know if it makes a difference. This is from one of the earlier runs of these. You can see the test divot right there below the hole in the blade, and it came back at 58.8 HRC. So I did try to test this already. The first edge didn't do very good. The second edge, it just wasn't, you know, it was nothing that stood out. It is on the third edge now, and I'm going to go ahead and test it no matter how it does, so you guys can see what it's doing. But I do like this. even though it's small. It is a fun little knife. So we'll see how this does. S35 at 58.8. And I do have some other S35 that I'm going to compare it to that I'll also be doing here very soon. Next up is the Foxuru in M390. Once again, no match. Everything falls in where it should. We're all good there. I did test this one already. The test results both times were extremely close. It came back at 58.3 HRC, and I have some other M390 that I have already tested that is with Kurt now. And when that comes back and I do that video, we will talk about the Rockwell readings and M390 more once I have some of the ones back that I tested to show the differences between like this 58.3 and 59 and so on, and how they perform differently. But even though how this performed, I like this knife. I don't plan on getting rid of it. I like it. It's a great second carry. It has a really stout blade. There's no reason you couldn't carry this as your primary knife. I know people do. But 58.3 on the Italian Fox M390. And here we have the Steel Modus. This is the G10 M390 version made in Italy. Right there below the M390, you can see the divot from the Rockwell test. The serial number on mine is 0048, and we'll talk about that in just a minute here. Once again, everything is where it's supposed to be. Kurt also noted that he doesn't notice any difference between this and any other M390 that he has tested, and that was because we were talking about when Pete at Cedric and Ada did the M390 Modus. It happened to be just like this one, and if I'm not mistaken, it was about 14 or 16 serial numbers after mine. So I really am curious to see how this performs. Like I said, the M390 checks out as M390, but it only came back at a 57.8 HRC. So I already have an idea of how it's going to perform. I just don't know exactly where it's going to perform. Even knowing all that, this thing has an awesome action. I really like this knife. I enjoy it. I'm not getting rid of it, no matter how it does in testing. It really doesn't matter to me. It's fun to play with. It carries nice. I just enjoy it. The last one that I have today is the Manly Peak S90V. I really enjoy this knife. Just like the Wasp, if you haven't had a Manly, it's worth picking up. These are made for people who like to cut stuff. The geometry it's just awesome. I don't recall what the Wasp is. I believe it was 9 thousandths behind the edge on the Wasp at 15 degrees per side. The Peak is 8 thousandths behind the edge at 15 degrees per side. It is not using very thick stock. It has a really nice thin tip on it. It's a very comfortable knife to use and operate. So this all checks out. It is S90V. The thing I am curious about with this though is I know that Steve tested an S90V Spyderco Manix 2 that was 59.8, and Kurt tested this twice and it came back at 58 and 58.3. How much the performance is going to differ between those two, that I'm not sure of yet. After I finish testing this, I am going to ask Steve and Kurt what the Rockwell results were of the S90V Wasp that Steve did not too long ago. And we'll see how close the Rockwell is and the performance between that Wasp and this Peak. Now, I don't plan on getting rid of this at all. But if I did, I would definitely buy another one. Possibly the 12C27 model that's coming out. Or maybe if they continue to make it in 154, I'd love to try one of those also. But this is a great user knife. Even being long, it's the size of the Spyderco Endura in length. It carries very nice. It's not a thick knife. Even in this dimension where it looks big, this thing carries great. So those are the results of all of these. The pug's back again. He's only been in here like 5 times already. So I am going to go ahead and get some more of these tested. I do have to validate this Cruwear still and get those tests up. But I'm really enjoying this one so far. The Wasp also. I'm doing that also this weekend, along with some of the other ones like the Modus. And I did forget to bring them out here, but I also have Cold Steel American Lawman in XHP versus an American Lawman in S35VN coming up. So we can compare how the XHP does compared to the new S35 that they switched to. So that's all I have for this segment. Got a lot of cool stuff coming up I'm excited about. Until then, I'll get out what I can. As always, I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.